Auburn is about to walk into Death Valley for the 11th time since the year 2000. And the question on everyone's mind is what's going to happen tonight? Can Auburn break the curse? Because for the past 10 games in that stadium in Death Valley, Auburn has lost. So, really, our question is what's going to happen? Can Auburn pull it off? Can they break this curse? Let's talk about it. So the first thing I want to do today is look at a history of how Auburn has performed in Death Valley. I mentioned to you that since the year 2000, Auburn has lost 10 straight games in that stadium. So let's go ahead and take a look at a breakdown of those 10 games. The last time we won was in 1999 when Tuberville was the head coach. So let's go ahead and take a look at those games real quick. And as you'll see, 1999, Tuberville, that was his first season as head coach at Auburn. And he won that game. Tuberville won that game 41-7. But since then, it has been nothing but losses to LSU. We had a couple of close games in there. If you go look at the year 2005, Auburn lost 20-17, and that game actually went into overtime. Looking through a few more of these games, we had a few more close ones that we should have won, most notably in 2017. Auburn was a huge favorite in this game. They were ranked number 10. LSU was unranked, and unfortunately, Auburn lost 27-23. And then 2 years ago in 2019, this was another game that I thought Auburn would win. I think a lot of people did. And Auburn just kind of blew that game. They blew the lead they had and ended up losing in Death Valley again. And so now we're to the 2021 season. I feel like we are a better team. And we're left again with this question: can we pull it out? Do we have enough to do what it takes to get the victory? If you'd asked me before last week, I would have said absolutely. There's no question we are going to pull this out. I have no doubt in my mind. But after that game versus Georgia State, I really have some reservations on being too confident about that win. So let's talk about some keys to victory, some things that have to happen for Auburn to pull this out against LSU tonight. And I think the first thing that everybody would agree on that we have to see is some pretty solid quarterback play. And so we still have this controversy going on where we don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be. Is it going to be, someone like Bo Nix, or is it going to be TJ Finley? And we don't have a for sure answer just yet. So let's go back to this screen. So we have Bo Nix, and he has been the starter for the past 3 seasons, counting this year, for every single game. Last week versus Georgia State, he ended up getting pulled from the game for what he says was an injury. What a lot of people believe the reason he got pulled was due to poor play. And we can sit here and debate the reason he got pulled. But regardless, this is the first time Bo Nix was ever benched as a starter. If you look to his play as a high school quarterback and as a college quarterback, this was a first for him. He's never been benched. And I think he took this pretty hard. He didn't know how to react. And I think he's still a little shell-shocked when you look at it. So ultimately, we're left with this question: is Bo Nix the guy, or is it going to be TJ Finley? And I think with what we saw versus Georgia State, yes, it was a quarter and some change from that third quarter, but he ultimately did what he had to do as the leader of that team to get the victory. Has his quarterback play been stellar his whole time in college? No, he's obviously had his own struggles. He's had his own difficulties, but he showed us that he has what it takes, even though it's a team like Georgia State, He has what it takes to lead his team. And when the game's on the line, you're on the 2-yard line. He can pull that team to it's a hard fought win, unfortunately, but he could do it. And now I really like the storyline we're seeing shaping up here. So we have TJ Finley transferred from LSU. He got to start several games last season while he was at LSU. And now he's returning to his previous home stadium, and there's a possibility he could start. Now, we can debate the likelihood over whether this will happen or not, because I think there is a lot to be said over whether he should or should not start. And I personally think, um, I personally think he may not start. The reason I think he will not start is because of his lack of experience. If you look at Bo Nix, he's got the experience. He's been in these difficult situations in these difficult stadiums before, and I think that is going to be taken into account with who the starting quarterback will be today. If you ask me personally, should we start Bo Nix or TJ Finley? I have stated this before, and I still stand by what I said. I think you should start Finley, and let me explain why. Finley last week won 2 key groups. He won the fans and he won the team. That has to be taken into consideration for this game versus LSU. I do not see the downside in doing this. And if somebody does, please let me know your thoughts. I do not see the downside in starting TJ Finley at the beginning of this game versus LSU. What am I missing? Ultimately, we want to try to run the ball, so we're going to try to feed the ball a lot to Tank and Jarquez. Shivers might see some, but Finley has shown he can do those short little passes. He was doing those passes to the sideline last week with no problem. And if we need to spread out the defense, he can do those little short passes over the D line to get something going. We've not seen that from Bo Nix, at least not last week. And I really think if we want to get a spark in this team, we want to get them fired up, put TJ out there, give him a shot, give him the chance, put it on him. If he gets that start, make it his job to lose. All right, you said you can do this. You said you want this. You think you're the guy. Here you go. Take it. Give him the chance to get those first team plays to get out there and let him lose the job or keep it. If he does well, leave him in. But if you do that, here's what you gain. Harsin would gain the respect of the fans because he would show that he is willing to make a change when there is a need. So when we are struggling and there is a need, he's not just going to keep somebody in there because they've been the guy for a certain amount of time. This will show that Harsin can look and say, you know what, we've had a problem here. We've had an issue with our quarterback play. This hasn't worked out with Bo, not as well as it should have. So let's give TJ a shot. And then if TJ is able to lead the team, he's able to do what he has to do to put points up on the board. I don't see any reason why you don't leave him in the game. But at the same time, if TJ goes in and he does not play well and they give him a fair shot, well, guess what, Bo? This is your shot at redemption. You got pulled out of the game previously versus Georgia State. You can say it's an injury, whatever you want to. Regardless, you got benched. If you go in second versus LSU, so TJ goes in, and this is just a what-if scenario, and he struggles, and then you get put back in the game, that's your shot to prove why you should be QB1. So from a coaching standpoint, I don't see what you have to lose by doing that. I think I've heard some people say it may mess with Bo's psyche if you don't start him. I don't know. I'm not a quarterback, so I don't know what goes into that completely. But I completely disagree. You shouldn't be worried about Bo's psyche, if he was already struggling versus Georgia State, he's going to have the same struggles versus LSU. So to me, Bo's not used to being benched. He's not had that experience. Put in TJ, let him have that job. If he shows up, he keeps it. If he loses it, Bo gets a shot at redemption. And that's really where I stand on the whole quarterback situation. As far as other keys to winning this game, I think you have to look at running the ball. What did Georgia State do last week that hurt us greatly? We had our worst running game we've had so far. We did a whole lot better versus Penn State. And then Georgia State shuts us down. And how did they do that? They loaded the box with like 8 or 9 guys. There's a possibility that LSU could try to do the same just to see what we do. Have we adapted? Have we coached up Bo Nix or TJ Finley enough to overcome something like that so we can get the run game going? Because we know if we get the run game going, LSU is going to struggle. Tank and Jarquez and maybe even Shivers will run all over them. So we have to get the run game going, and we have to spread out that defense so that Tank and Jarquez and Shivers have a chance to do their thing, because they will be unstoppable as long as they can get through the defensive line or at least around the edge. So we'll see what happens with that. The next key is with the wide receivers. As we saw last week, there were a lot of concerns with our wide receiver group. We have dropped passes. We have players who have been played too much, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. They've been getting too much play time, and we've not been seeing other players that have shown up and shown they deserve that time. And so this week, what we need to see is put the players who want to catch the ball and have shown they can catch the ball, put them in. Let's get those guys back. We should see, Demetrius Robertson. I think he should be back this week. So hopefully he will be in the game, because I think we're going to need him. And then ultimately what we need to see stopping with our wide receivers is the dropped passes. Yes, there's been some uncatchable balls, but the ones that come straight to you, it hits you in the hands. You've got to catch those. We have to catch the catchable passes. There's no excuse for that. We should not be on track to double or triple our drop passes from last season. We just have to see some improvement. And last Sunday, talking about wide receivers, we did get some news about Cornelius Williams. He was fired. He was let go. And we have a new coach. It's the offensive analyst. I'm going to mess up his last name, Cusso, I think. This was Bryan Harsin's previous offensive coordinator. And let's talk about that for a minute. There is some speculation as to why this happened. I think it was spun by Harsin and crew that Cornelius Williams was let go due to performance, and that could be true, because based on what we've seen, they've not done that well. The wide receivers have not shown up. We've had a couple of good catches from Shedrick Jackson. We've had some good catches from Robertson, but then you also have the Penn State game for Robertson where he's catching 2 passes for 6 yards, and he was targeted 8 or 9 times. And that's the kind of stuff that's not okay, especially when a lot of those passes were catchable. As far as what this new guy is going to do, I don't know a lot about him. I know he was offensive coordinator at Boise State previously with Harsin, and he's been a wide receivers coach in the past. There is some speculation and I guess conspiracy, if you want to call it that this guy was brought on as an offensive analyst with the thought of him eventually stepping into this role anyway. I'm not going to go that far to say that that's what's going on, but that is something people are saying. The next key to victory with this game is pretty obvious, and that is our linebackers. I had no idea. I knew our linebackers were good, but I had no idea how much we depended on them as far as being the absolute backbone to our team, to our defense. I thought we had a little more depth at linebacker than we actually do. And what we saw versus Georgia State is that if we don't have at least one of those linebackers in Owen Papo or Zacoby McClain, we will suffer. We will suffer, and teams will run and throw all over us all day long. Look at the first half versus Georgia State when Papo was out due to injury and McClain was out due to a penalty that was not a penalty and should not have been targeting, but he was out of the first half. Georgia State put up 24 points on us. As soon as McClain came back into the game, the second half, how many points did Georgia State score on us? 0. So because of that, we've got to have our key linebackers, McClain and or Papo, in the game, because if we don't have them, they're going to put the teams are going to put all kinds of points up on us. Okay, now I want to take a look at our schedule. And here's the reason for that. Hold on one second. I skipped ahead. Before we do that, I want to take a look at some news we got about returning players. So here we go. We did get news this week that Owen Papo and Demetrius Robertson are expected to play for Auburn tonight. We've not had it completely confirmed, but Auburn seemed pretty optimistic, and this is from AL.com. But they seemed fairly optimistic that both of these players will be back. They're both number 0 on the field. One's on, obviously one's on offense and one's on defense. But they are both expected to be back in play, and they are both impact players. So this is a much welcome addition to the game because we missed them last week versus Georgia State. Now, what I actually was getting to is the schedule we have coming up past LSU, and I want to talk about why this is such a key game for Harsin. So let's go back to this screen. So the game tonight, I feel like it is a must win for Bryan Harsin. I really feel like it's a must win for Bryan. And this is why I feel that way. Look at the schedule we have coming up. So far, the wins that Harsin has gotten, we've gotten 3 cupcake wins, and he played it close versus Penn State, which is great. But Harsin does not have a marquee victory just yet. And look at what we have coming up after LSU. So after LSU, we've got Georgia at home. Even though this game's at home, we know this is going to be a terribly difficult game. This is going to be a very difficult game. Yes, it's at Jordan-Hare, and that's fantastic. But Georgia is look what they did to Clemson, and I know Clemson's kind of fallen apart after the fact, but they're looking like at the very least, a solid team on defense. So that's going to be a tough game. If you'd asked me preseason, Arkansas I thought was going to be an easy game. And now look what they're doing. They're 4-0. They've beaten Texas. They beat Texas A&M. They're actually a game I'm worried about now. And so that's going to be a tough game because not only is it on the road, but it's versus a team that has already had some big victories early on. And then today, I guess we'll know more about Georgia and Arkansas after today because they play each other. And then on October 30th, we play Ole Miss. This one always scares me a little bit, and I say always. I mean, since Kiffin has been there, because his offense is so high octane, it does worry me a little bit. And this is another game that we're going to know more about after today. Because if you want to ask me about my prediction for the Ole Miss versus Alabama game, I'll go ahead and tell you I think Ole Miss is going to win this one. I think Florida exposed Alabama, and I think Kiffin having the week off last week, they had a bye week. He's had time to prepare for this game, and I think he is completely going to just run up the score on Alabama. The question is, can Ole Miss's defense do enough to stop Alabama from scoring so that Ole Miss can win the game. And because I have no doubt that Ole Miss's offense is going to be able to put up points on Alabama. After that, we go to College Station to play Texas A&M. This is one I'm honestly just not sure about. I don't know what to think about this game yet. I think it's going to depend some on their quarterback. So I don't feel confident one way or the other, but I do know it will be tough because it is another road game, and it's a tough stadium to play at. After that, South Carolina, Mississippi State. I think we'll get victories at those two, but then we have Alabama at home, and I still am not completely sold on Alabama this year. I think Bryce Young he seems like a good quarterback, but I still just look at that Florida game, and I just am not sold on Alabama completely just yet. So I think out of all these games, Alabama is not unbeatable. I think Texas A&M is not unbeatable. I'm really the most worried about our next two games, October 9th versus Georgia and October 16th versus Arkansas, because we just don't know. And so getting back to my original point of this is that tonight is a must-win game for Harsin. This is his first season. He needs a marquee victory. What better way for Harsin to leave his mark at Auburn than to break the curse at Death Valley? And I think based on what we've seen from LSU so far, we have a very good chance at doing that. For that to happen, though, Harsin is going to have to make some good decisions, whether it's he or Bobo. We've got to make the right calls. We've got to make the right decisions so that we can give our guys a chance to win. Obviously, the first key decision is who they're going to put in at quarterback. And I'd love to hear from you guys if you're seeing this. At some point during this video, please drop a comment on this video before the game starts who you think will be the starter versus LSU. Is it going to be TJ Finley or is it going to be Bo Nix? But Harsin, he's got to do what it takes to win tonight, and he's got to put his players in a spot where they can get that victory. We've got to open up the run game. You got to get the pass game going so that the run game is opened up. Our offensive line has to do their job. And then on defense, we've got to have our starting linebackers in so that LSU just doesn't run up the score and run all over us. The next thing I want to do is, and let me get out of this for just a second, but the next thing I want to show you is really my final predictions. And so I've got two final predictions for you. One of those is my prediction for, I asked you for your thoughts on this, so I'll give you mine as well. But I want to know your final predictions in the comments. And these are the two predictions I want to hear. First prediction is who will be the starting quarterback tonight? And you can give this in two ways. One, I want you to tell me who you think will be the starting quarterback. And then second, who do you want to be the starting quarterback? And then finally, give me your prediction for the score. So here's my prediction for who I think will be starting quarterback, and then I'll tell you who I want to be. I personally think Bo Nix is going to be the starter tonight. I think that the coaches will look at his experience. He's played on the road. He's been in these hostile environments and just has more experience than TJ Finley. If you ask me who I want to be the starter, I've already said it. I want TJ Finley to get the start and then put it on him to either play well or Bo Nix gets his shot at redemption. But when it comes down to it, I think Bo Nix is going to be the guy. My next thing I want to look at is prediction for final score. And this is what I have. I think the final score is going to be Auburn 31 and LSU 28. I know this is predicted to be a close game and it could go either way, but based on everything I've seen from Auburn and from LSU, I agree that it will be a tight game, but I think ultimately Auburn will do enough to get the victory. So I'm excited about this one. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch tonight. And I hope you guys will be watching it too. And maybe we can communicate during the game through Twitter or anything like that. And you guys can find me at Infinite Auburn on Twitter. And I think it's going to be a ton of fun. And let me go ahead and put that up there for you. There's my Twitter handle if you want to follow me. And during the game, tweet at me. Let's get something going. We can get, if you want to get a private chat group going during the game, somebody start that up, invite me. We can have a good time talking about what happens live during this game, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you guys for watching this live show this morning. If you're catching it after the fact, I hope you enjoy this content. And if you do, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Right now, I'm on that road to 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help. So share this video, hit like, hit subscribe, and thank you as always. And I will see you in the next one.